right, so here we are wrapping up the chapter, lesson 5 from current slide. Here in period 1 on, let's see, what's today? Tuesday, October 6th, I believe. We went over the bell ringer from Galatians 3, verse 26 and following. There's effects of baptism in there, and so we're just going to wrap up the chapter with this short lesson. And we're actually going to try to just gather up all of what we've learned this chapter and make our own list, really, of the effects of baptism. On your test, you could very well have to write out anywhere from 3 to 5 effects of baptism as a short answer question, so be ready for that. But either way, we said, St. Paul said that when you are baptized, you're clothed with Christ. You have a deeper unity to all members of the church, regardless of gender, race, or background. He said that we have the inheritance of Abraham. We find ourselves in Abraham's family. We're children of God. Those are all good things that you could write down and could write on your test. But there's even more that we've talked about. So I'm going to put some people on the spot. Alec, would you mind telling me any other effects of baptism? Okay, so bringing up exorcism, there's an exorcism before the baptism normally, but that wouldn't be an effect of the washing of water in itself. It does cast out demons previously. But staying on that line of thought, washing with water, what does that cast out of a human soul? Original sin. Original sin and this depravity we have before God and this cut off, a distant relationship we have with God is overcome when we are baptized. So we've said a lot already, but can we think of any others? So we overcome original sin. We become children of God. Very good. Thank you, Brooke. You inherit heaven. Brooke showing up on fire. Here we go. We inherit heaven. So heaven is opened up for you. We talked about the relationship between baptism and salvation. And so this is a good way to see it, I think. If you're baptized as a baby, as most of us Catholics are, heaven is yours to lose. Think about it that way. That hit me yesterday as I was teaching. If you're baptized as a baby, you're set on the right path, you're redeemed, you're given grace, you're set apart, you're marked with the character, by the way, another effect of baptism. And then, basically, heaven is yours. And as you learn about how to walk to heaven, if you choose no, I'm going to do things my way, aka mortal sin, you lose your heaven over time. And of course, you can get it back with confession, but heaven is yours to lose when you're baptized. I think that's a good way to look at how it's significant. So very good. Lots of effects of baptism. Should have no problem filling up 5 spots on that. I'm trying to think if we overlooked any. In case you didn't get this one down, it's one of the primary ones, probably in the top 4 or 5, but we are initiated into the church, as St. Paul kind of references in Galatians 3, that we do find ourselves a member of the church. And so that's our initiation, right, into a relationship with God, a deeper relationship with God, but also each other. Whenever you join a school, whenever you join a club, whenever you join a team, whenever you join a fraternity or sorority in college, there's going to be expectations of you. Whenever you get a job, there's going to be expectations of you. Okay? What do we call the expectations of a baptized Catholic? The minimum requirements to actively live that life. We call those, JP? Okay, there's a vocab term. Yeah, like there's a vocab term, and that vocab term covers 5 points that all Catholics are to follow. The minimum requirements, Alec? The precepts of the church. And so that's the only other thing I want to cover for this short lesson today is the precepts of the church. JP, you know any of them? Very good. Confession once a year. Anybody else, or jump out with any others? Alec has hand up next. Eucharist. I'm going to pull these up on the board. I'm waiting for the very first one. Very good. There's fasting involved. There you go. That's usually at the top of the list. That's the most commonly known precept. There's 5 precepts. Number 1 on our list is going to be you have to attend Mass on Sundays and holidays of obligation. The holy days of obligation are written on the board. You don't need to know. You don't need to write them down. To be honest with you, I'm not going to test you on them. For those of you watching this over YouTube, those holy days of obligation are January 1st, Feast Day of the Mother of God, Ascension Thursday, whenever that falls in the calendar, 40 days after Easter. August 15th is the Assumption. That's usually our first school mass. November 1st is not too far away. That's the All Saints Day. This year it falls on a Sunday, though, so you're not expecting, it's not like you go to mass twice. You just do your Sunday obligation there. December 8th is the Immaculate Conception, and that's Holy Day of Obligation. And last but not least is Christmas. December 25th is a Holy Day of Obligation. So every Sunday and those dates. Now, a lot of times, if those dates fall on a Saturday, you're dispensed from having to go to Mass because the church doesn't want to, knows that it might be too much of a burden or too much of a difficulty for hard-working class people to go to Mass, 2 times back to back. So there's never a day really that Holy Days of Obligation are back to back, at least in America. Okay, so you go to Mass on those days. The next one, which was said, I believe, by John Paul, was you shall confess your sins at least once a year. So the first precept of the church, I believe, is followed by roughly 30% of Catholics go to church. I think that's actually a generous number. 30% of Catholics go to church when they're expected to. And unfortunately, the second rule is about 10%. It may be less, actually. It might even be like 7% of Catholics go to confession every year. That is not good numbers. That is not good. That is a powerful sacrament. Now, I say that knowing that most of you have not been to confession in the past year. Some of you didn't know this rule, whatnot. Regardless, I understand. A lot of you were made to go in middle school. You go to high school, it's more optional. You're just not feeling it. We're going to get to the sacrament of confession. I will teach you again how to go. I will teach you again the power and the value of it. And to be perfectly honest with you, while it may not be my favorite chapter to teach, it's one of the most fruitful, because every year what makes my job so worth it is seeing dozens of juniors get back in the confession line after years of not going. So that's part of what makes my job so awesome, and I'm thankful for it. So I'm gonna help y'all go there. Next chapter, of course, is Confirmation Eucharist. That's 3 and 4. So chapter 5 will probably be on confession. All right, but we gotta get back there. As I think Alec might have said, you are to receive the Eucharist at least once a year at Easter. Yeah, Alec's question is, why would you only receive it once? We have our modern day understanding of the Eucharist is, you want to receive as much as you can as long as you're not in mortal sin. Which is true. There's a lot of people, though, that are very stuck in mortal sin, and they're not too motivated or to change their ways, or maybe they don't really believe they can live without the sin. It's a very sad reality. All of this being said, the Catholic Church says, to those, let's say there's a dad stuck in mortal sin, not really agreeing with the church on a lot of things. He goes to Mass with his family every Sunday, but he's not receiving the Eucharist for his own reasons. The church is saying, listen, we expect you to go to confession probably during Lent so you can receive that Eucharist during Easter. What the church is saying here is, don't just sit around in your sin in the church. Every year, at least one time, go through the car wash, go through confession and get ready to receive the Eucharist again. So that's the idea there. Some people, with their own self-image, their own issues with the church, and their own personal sins, that they don't receive the Eucharist, and that's probably the right call. But the church says, don't just sit around. Like, try to fight those sins and do something about it. And as Brooke referenced, I believe there are certain days of fasting and abstinence for Catholics. Fasting and abstinence. What 2 days out of the year, and you need to know this for your test. It's a verbal no right here. 2 days out of the year, Brooke, Catholics fast. Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. Ding, ding, ding. Brooke Charles, like 4 for 4 today. Ash Wednesday, Good Friday are days of fasting. How does the Catholic Church define fasting? If I'm a adult Catholic, healthy, what does my fasting look like? What's the max I can eat? Close, but you got to tone it down a little bit there. You're allowed to eat one full meal and two snacks. Two snacks can't be too big, as in if you put them together, they shouldn't equal one meal. So it's really like a meal and a half. So what Mr. Peo does is I snack for breakfast, I snack for lunch, I save my meal for dinner. Because I don't want to get, like, even if I'm hungry, I'm knowing that in a couple hours I'll get my dinner. So that's what it looks like for fasting. Now, I believe canon law says between the Catholics are expected to fast between the ages of 18 and 60. So y'all are at that age where this is becoming a precept and an expectation. When my parents had me fasting for since I was in like second grade. They never told me that rule. So some of y'all might have parents that did that too. But that being said, that's what fasting looks like. What's abstinence? No sex. No sex 2 days out of the year. All right? Get all your sex in during Mardi Gras. Y'all, I'm joking. That's not what it means. Abstinence here means you're abstaining from meat. This is my favorite part of the lesson. I always get kids. I was like, yeah, so no sex. So, you're not supposed to have sex, but the church is like really serious. Like, no sex on Ash Wednesday or Good Friday. Jesus died for you that day. No sex. No. Man, if you're married, have all the sex you want on that day. If you're not married, you shouldn't be doing it anyways. So the church isn't like getting like up in the chastity levels. We're serious today. Yeah. So don't have sex during Mardi Gras and don't have sex after Mardi Gras. That being said, abstinence is abstaining from anything. So I could be practicing abstinence from dessert or sweets or, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Abstinence in this case refers to meat on Ash Wednesday, Good Friday, and Fridays of Lent. All Catholics are expected to refrain from meat, abstaining from meat. Sex is good too. So that's the implication there. That's why, we don't serve meat Fridays and Lent here. You get your cheese pizza. If you're out and you can afford to buy nice food, you get your shrimp po' boy. It's not the biggest sacrifice if you're living in southern Louisiana, but it's worth doing anyways. Sometimes it is. If you're really craving that burger or that steak. Last one is the simplest one. You got to give back to the church. You got to give back to the church. Give back. Usually in America, since we're well off financially, it usually means giving back financially. If you live in a poor country, it might mean giving giving the local priest a chicken every year. No joke. Giving him some eggs. That could be your tithing or your fasting, giving back, whatever is needed. For y'all probably don't have a whole lot of money flowing through your pockets. Some of you might, some of you don't. Volunteering. That's why I think all your confirmation programs should involve volunteer work. Get you to understand that the church doesn't run itself. Its members have to be involved. Its members have to give back to keep her alive, vital, and fulfilling her mission to spread the gospel. All right. Questions on the precepts of the church, expectations, minimum requirements of all baptized Catholics. That's what they are. And that wraps up lesson 5. We will do some Jeopardy review. Peace out, virtual peeps.